Thorne unlocked the door to Levine's apartment and flicked on the lights. They stared, astonished.
It looks like a museum.
Levine's two-bedroom apartment was decorated in a vaguely Asian style, with rich wooden cabinets and expensive antiques. But the apartment was spotlessly clean, and most of the antiques were housed in plastic cases. Everything was neatly labeled. They walked slowly into the room.
Does he live here?
She found it hard to believe. The apartment seemed so impersonal to her, almost inhuman. And her own apartment was such a mess all the time.
Yeah, he does, Thorne said, pocketing the key. It always looks like this. It's why he can never live with a woman. He can't stand to have anybody touch anything.
The living room couches were arranged around a glass coffee table. On the table were 4 piles of books, each neatly aligned with the glass edge. Arby glanced at the titles. Catastrophe Theory and Emergent Structures. Inductive Processes in Molecular Evolution. Cellular Automata. Methodology of Nonlinear Adaptation. Phase Transition in Evolutionary Systems. There were also some older books with titles in German. Kelly sniffed the air.
Something cooking?
I don't know.
He went into the dining room. Along the wall he saw a hot plate with a row of covered dishes. They saw a polished wood dining table with a place set for one, silver and cut glass. Soup steamed from a bowl. Thorne walked over and picked up a sheet of paper on the table and read, "Lobster bisque, baby organic greens, seared ahi tuna." A yellow post-it was attached. "Hope your trip was good, Romelia."
Wow, you mean somebody makes dinner for him every day?
I guess.
He didn't seem impressed. He shuffled through a stack of unopened mail that had been set out beside the plate. Kelly turned to some faxes on a nearby table. The first one was from the Peabody Museum at Yale in New Haven.
Is this German?
Dear Dr. Levine, your requested document Geschichtliche Forschungsarbeiten über die Geologie Zentralamerikas 1922 to 1929 has been sent by Federal Express today. Thank you. Signed, Dina Scrumbus, archivist.
I can't read it, Thorne said. But I think it's something researchers of the geology of Central America. And it's from the 20s. Not exactly hot news.
I wonder why he wanted it.
Thorne didn't answer her. He went into the bedroom. The bedroom had a spare, minimal look. The bed a black futon, neatly made. Thorne opened the closet doors and saw racks of clothing, everything pressed, neatly spaced, much of it in plastic. He opened the top dresser drawer and saw socks folded, arranged by color.
I don't know how he can live like this.
Nothing to it. All you need is servants.
He opened the other drawers quickly, one after another. Kelly wandered over to the bedside table. There were several books there. The one on top was very small and yellowing with age. It was in German. The title was Die 5 Todesarten. She flipped through it, saw colored pictures of what looked like Aztecs in colorful costumes. It was almost like an illustrated children's book, she thought. Underneath were books and journal articles with the dark red cover of the Santa Fe Institute. Genetic Algorithms and Heuristic Networks, Geology of Central America, Tessellation Automata of Arbitrary Dimension. The 1989 annual report of the InGen Corporation. And next to the telephone she noticed a sheet of hastily scribbled notes. She recognized the precise handwriting as Levine's. It said, Site B, Volcanische, Tacaño, Nublar, 1 of 5 deaths in mountains? No. Maybe Gutierrez. Careful.
What's Site B? He has notes about it.
Thorne came over to look.
Volcanishi. That means volcanic, I think. And Tacaño and Nublar. They sound like place names. If they are, we can check that on the atlas.
And what's this about 1 of 5 deaths?
Damned if I know. What's Site B? Why? You better see his office, Arby said.
Levine had turned the second bedroom into an office. It was like the rest of the apartment, admirably neat. There was a desk with papers laid out in tidy stacks alongside a computer covered in plastic. But behind the desk there was a large corkboard that covered most of the wall, and on this board Levine had tacked up maps, charts, newspaper clippings, Landsat images, and aerial photographs. At the top of the board was a large sign that said, Site B? Alongside that was a blurred, curling snapshot of a bespectacled Chinese man in a white lab coat standing in the jungle beside a wooden sign that said, Site B. His coat was unbuttoned, and he was wearing a T-shirt with lettering on it. Alongside the photo was a large blow-up of the T-shirt, as seen in the original photograph. It was hard to read the lettering, which was partly covered on both sides by the lab coat, but the shirt seemed to say, InGen Site B, Research Facility. In neat handwriting, Levine had noted, InGen Site B Research Facility? Where? Just below that was a page cut from the InGen annual report. Next to that, Levine had written, No B. Liars.
He's really obsessed with Site B. I'll say, Thorne said, and he thinks it's on an island somewhere.
Peering closely at the board, Thorne looked at the satellite images. He noticed that although they were printed in false colors at various degrees of magnification, they all seemed to show the same general geographical area, a rocky coastline and some islands offshore. The coastline had a beach and encroaching jungle. It might be Costa Rica, but it was impossible to say for sure. In truth, it could be any of a dozen places in the world.
He said he was on an island.
Yes, Thorne shrugged. But that doesn't help us much. He stared at the board. There must be 20 islands here, maybe more. This is weird. What do you make of this? Arby came over and looked at it thoughtfully. All these missing letters and garbage, Thorne said. Does it make any sense to you? Yes, Arby said.
He snapped his fingers and went directly to Levine's desk. There he pulled the plastic cover off the computer and said,
I thought so.
The computer on Levine's desk was not the modern machine that Thorne would have expected. This computer was several years old, large and bulky, its cover scratched in many places. It had a black stripe on the box that said, Design Associates Incorporated. And lower down, right by the power switch, a shiny little metal tag that said, Property International Genetics Technology Incorporated, Palo Alto, California.
What's this? Levine has an InGen computer? Yes, Arby said. He sent us to buy it last week. They were selling off computer equipment. And he sent you? Yeah, me and Kelly. He didn't want to go himself. He was afraid of being followed. But this thing is a CAT scan machine, and it must be 5 years old.
CAD-CAM computers were used by architects, graphic artists, and mechanical engineers.
Why would Levine want it? He never told us. But I know now. Yes? That memo, Arby said, nodding to the wall. You know why it looks like that? It's a recovered computer file. Levine's been recovering InGen files from this machine.
As Arby explained it, all the computers that InGen sold that day had had their hard drives reformatted to destroy any sensitive data on the disks. But the CAD-CAM machines were an exception. These machines all had special software installed by the manufacturer. The software was keyed to individual machines using individual code references. That made these computers awkward to reformat because the software would have to be reinstalled individually, taking hours.
So they didn't do it? Right. They just erased the directory and sold them. And that means the original files are still on the disk? Right. Jeez, Arby said.
He leaned forward, staring intently, fingers poised over the keys. He pushed the directory button, and row after row of file names scrolled down. Thousands of files in all.
How are you going to? Give me a minute here. Okay, Arby.
He was amused by the imperious way Arby behaved whenever he was working with a computer. He seemed to forget how young he was. His usual diffidence and timidity vanished. The electronic world was really his element, and he knew he was good at it.
Any help you can give us will be... Doc, come on. Go and, I don't know. Help Kelly or something. What do you think, Dr. Malcom? No menace, Malcom said, walking by. He was in the back wing of the biology department, on his way to his office. No menace? Tim said. They never stood like that. Flat-footed on 2 feet. Give him a book, and he might be singing a Christmas carol. Gee, I didn't think it was that bad. Bad? Malcom said. This is an insult to a great predator. We should feel his speed and menace and power. Widen the jaws, get the neck down, tense the muscles, thin the skin, and get that leg up. Remember, raptors don't attack with their jaws. They use their toe claws. I want to see the claw rise up, ready to slash down and tear the guts out of its prey. You really think so? Tim said doubtfully. It might scare the kids. You mean it might scare you? Malcom continued down the hallway. And another thing, change that hissing sound. It sounds like somebody's taking a piss. Give this animal a snarl. Give a great predator his due. Gee, Tim said. I didn't know you had such personal feelings about it. It should be accurate, Malcom said. And you know there is such a thing as accurate and inaccurate, irrespective of whatever your feelings are. Malcom had long been impatient with the arrogance of his scientific colleagues. They maintained that arrogance, he knew, by resolutely ignoring the history of science as a way of thought. Scientists pretended that history didn't matter, because the errors of the past are now corrected by modern discoveries. But of course, their forebears had believed exactly the same thing in the past too. They had been wrong then, and modern scientists were wrong now. No episode of science history proved it better than the way dinosaurs had been portrayed over the decades. It was sobering to realize that most accurate perception of dinosaurs had always been the first. Back in the 1840s, when Richard Owen first described giant bones in England, he named them Dinosauria, terrible lizards. They were indeed like lizards, and they were terrible. But since Owen, the scientific view of dinosaurs had undergone many changes. Because the Victorians believed in the inevitability of progress, they insisted that the dinosaurs must necessarily be inferior. Why else would they be extinct? So the Victorians made them fat, lethargic, and dumb, big dopes from the past. This perception was elaborated so that by the early 20th centuries, dinosaurs had become so weak that they could not support their own weight. Apatosaurs had to stand belly deep in water or they would crush their own legs. The whole conception of the ancient world was suffused with these ideas of weak, stupid, slow animals. That view didn't change until the 1960s, when a few renegade scientists, led by John Ostrom, began to imagine quick, agile, hot-blooded dinosaurs. Because these scientists have a temerity to question dogma, they were brutally criticized for years, even though it now seemed their ideas were correct. But in the last decades, a growing interest in social behavior had led to still another view. Dinosaurs were now seen as caring creatures, living in groups, raising their little babies. They were good animals, even cute animals. The big sweeties had nothing to do with their terrible fate, which was visited on them by the Elvis meteor. And that new sappy view produced people like Tim, who are reluctant to look on the other side of the coin, the other face of life. Of course, some of the dinosaurs had been social and cooperative, but others had been hunters, and killers of unparalleled viciousness. For Malcom, the truest picture of life in the past incorporated the interplay of all aspects of life, the good and the bad, the strong and the weak. It was no good pretending anything else. Scaring little kids indeed, Malcolm snorted irritably as he walked down the hall. In truth, Malcolm was bothered by what Elizabeth Gelman had told him about the tissue fragment, and especially that tag. That tag meant trouble, Malcolm was sure of it, but he wasn't sure what to do about it. He turned the corner past a display of clovered point arrowheads made by early men in America. Up ahead, he saw his office. Beverly, his assistant, was standing behind her desk, typing papers, getting ready to go home.
I've left word for Dr. Levine at his office, but he hasn't called back. They don't seem to know where he is.
For a change, Malcolm said, signing. It was so difficult working with Levine. He's so erratic. You never knew what to expect. Malcolm had been the one to post bail when Levine was arrested in his Ferrari. He read them through the faxes, conference dates, requests for reprints. Nothing interesting. Okay, thanks, Beverly.
Oh, and the photographers came. They finished about an hour ago.
What photographers?
From Chaos Quarterly to photograph your office.
What are you talking about?
They came to photograph your office. For a series about workplace of famous mathematicians. They had a letter from you saying it was...
I never sent any letter, Malcolm said. And I never heard of Chaos Quarterly. He went into his office and looked around. Beverly hurried in after him, her face worried.
Is it okay? Is everything here?
Yes, he said, scanning quickly. It seems to be fine. He was opening the drawers to his desk. One after another. Nothing appeared to be missing.
That's a relief.
He turned and looked at the far side of the room. The map. Malcolm had a large map of the world with pins stuck on it for all the sightings of what Levine kept calling aberrant forms. By the most literal count, Levine's count, there had been 12 in all, from Raganora in the west to Baja California and Ecuador in the east. Few of them were verified, but now there was a tissue sample that confirmed one specimen, and that made all the rest more likely. Did they photograph this map?
Yes, they photographed everything. Does it matter?
Malcolm looked at the map, trying to see with fresh eyes, to see what an outsider would make of it. He and Levine spent hours in front of this map, considering the possibility of a lost world, trying to decide where it might be. They had narrowed it down to 5 islands in the chain, off the coast of Costa Rica. Levine was convinced that it was one of those islands, and Malcolm was beginning to think he was right. But those islands were not highlighting on the map.
They were a very nice group. Very polite. Foreign Swiss, I think.
Malcolm nodded and signed it. The hell with it, he thought. It was bound to get out sooner or later. It's all right, Beverly.
Are you sure?
Yes, it's fine. Have a good evening.
Good night, Dr. Malcolm.
Alone in his office, he dialed Levine. The phone rang, and then there was an answering machine beeped. Levine was still not home. Richard, are you there? If you are, pick up, it's important. He waited. Nothing happened. Richard, it's Ian. Listen, we have a problem. The map is no longer secure, and I have that sample analyzed, Richard, and I think it tells us the location of Site B. If my... Richard? No, this is Thorne, and I think you better get over here right away. I knew it, Malcolm said, coming into Levine's apartment and glanced around quickly. I knew he would do something like this. You know how impetuous he is. I said to him, don't go until we have all the information. But I should have known. Of course he went. Yes, he did. Ego, Malcolm said, shaking his head. Richard has to be first. Has to figure it out first. Has to get there first. I'm very concerned he could ruin everything. This impulsive behavior. You realize it's a storm in the brain, neurons on the edge of chaos. Obsession is just a variant of addiction. But what scientists even had self-control? They instruct them in school. It's bad form to be balanced. They forget Niels Bohr was not only the greatest physicist, but an Olympic athlete. These days, they all try to be nerds. It's the professional style. Thorne looked back at Malcolm thoughtfully. He thought he detected a competitive edge. Do you know which island he went to? No, I do not. The last time we taught, we had narrowed it down to 5 islands, all in the south, but we haven't decided which one. These islands here? Yes, Malcolm said, looking briefly. They're strewn in out an arc, all about 10 miles offshore from the Bay of Puerto Cortes. Supposedly, they're all uninhabited. Local people call them the 5 Deaths.
Why?
Some old Indian story, Malcom said. Something about a brave warrior captured by a king who offered him his choice of deaths. Burning, drowning, crushing, hanging, decapitation. The warrior said he would take them all, and went from island to island, experiencing the various challenges. Sort of a New World version of Labors of Hercules.
So that's what it is?
Malcom looked blank. He turned to Thorne, who shrugged. Kelly returned, carrying the German children's book in her hand. She gave it to Malcom. Yes, Typhoon to the Satan, The 5 Ways of Death. Interesting that it's in German.
He has lots of German books.
Does he? That bastard. He never told me.
That means something?
Yes, it means a lot. Hand me that magnifying glass, will you?
What does it mean?
The 5 depths are ancient volcanic islands, which means they are geologically very rich. Back in the 20s, the Germans wanted to mine them. Ah, yes, these are the islands, no question. Matanceros, Muerte, Tacaño, Sorna, Pena. All names of death and destruction. Alright, I think we may be close. Do we have any satellite pictures with spectrographic analysis of the cloud cover? Is that going to help us find Site B? Malcom spun around. What do you know about Site B? Arby was sitting at the computer, still working. Nothing. Just that Dr. Levine was looking for Site B, and it was the name in the files. What files? I recovered some InGen files from this computer, and researching through the old records, I found reference to Site B, but they're pretty confusing, like this one. Curious, but not very helpful. It doesn't tell us which island, or even is an island at all. What else have you got? Well, let's see. There's this. Okay, so it's an island, and Site B has a network. But a network of what? Computers? I don't know, maybe a radio network. For what purpose, Malcom said. What would a radio network be used for? This isn't very helpful. Arby shrugged. He took it as a challenge. He began typing furiously again. Wait! Here's another one. If I can just format it... There! Got it! He moved away from the screen so others could see it. Very good. Very good. Now we're getting somewhere, Malcom said, scanning the list. Can you print this out? Sure. Is it really good? It really is, Malcom said.
Arby, those are the text labels that go with the map.
Yeah, I think so. Pretty neat, huh? He pushed a button, sending the image to the printer. Malcom peered at the listing some more, then turned his attention back to the satellite map, looking closely at each one of the magnifying glass. His nose was just inches from the photographs.
Arb, don't just sit there. Come on, recover the map. That's what we need.
I don't know if I can, Arby said. It's a proprietary 32-bit format. I mean, it's a big job.
Stop whining, Arb. Just do it.
Never mind, Malcom said. He peered away from the satellite image pinning on the wall. It's not important. It's not? Arby said, a little worried. No, Arby, you can stop. Because from what you already discovered, I'm quite certain we can identify the island right now. Ed James yawned and pushed the earpiece tighter into his ear. He wanted to make sure he got all this. The small tape recorder was spinning on his lap, next to his notepad, and the crumpled papers from 2 Big Macs. James looked across the street at Levine's apartment building. The lights were on the 3rd floor apartment, and the bug he had placed there last week was working fine. How? The essence of verification is multiple lines of reasoning that convert at a single point. Meaning what? Just look at the Landsat picture. On his notepad, James wrote Landsat.
We already looked at those.
James felt foolish not to have realized earlier that these 2 kids were working for Levine. He remembered them well. They were in his class Levine taught. There was a short black kid and a gawky white girl. Just kids. Maybe 11 or 12. He should have realized. Not that it mattered now, he thought. He was getting the information anyway. James reached across the dashboard and plugged out the last 2 French fries and ate them, even though they were cold. Okay. It's this island here. This is the island Levine went to.
You think so? This is Isla Sorna.
James wrote Isla Sorna. That's our island. Why? 3 independent reasons. First, it's privately owned, so it hasn't been thoroughly searched by the Costa Rican government. Second, privately owned by who? By the Germans, who laced rights to mineral excavations back in the 20s. All the German book? Exactly. Third, from Arby's list, and from another independent source, it is clear that there is volcanic gas located at Site B. So which island has volcanic gas? Take the magnifying glass and look for yourself. Turns out, only one island does.
You mean this here?
Right. That's volcanic smoke.
How do you know?
Spectrographic analysis. See this spike here? That's elementary sulfur in the cloud cover. There aren't really any sources of sulfur except volcanic sources.
What's this other spike?
Methane. Apparently there's fairly large sources of methane gas. Is that also volcanic? It might be. Methane is released from volcanic activity, but most commonly during active eruptions. The other possibility is, it might be organic. Organic? Meaning what? Large herbivores, and do you want me to finish this recovery or not? No. Never mind now, Arby. We know what we have to do. Let's go, kids. James looked up at the apartment and saw the lights being turned off. A few minutes later, Thorne and the kids appear at the front entrance, on the street level. They got in a Jeep and drove off. Malcom went into his own car, climbed in awkwardly, and drove away in the opposite direction. James considered following Malcom, but he had something else to do now. He turned the car ignition, picked up the phone, and dialed.
Half an hour later, when they got back to Thorne's office, Kelly stared, stunned. Most of the workers were gone, and the shed had been cleaned up. The two trailers and the Explorer stood side by side, freshly painted dark green and ready to go.
They're finished! I told you they would be,
Thorne said. He turned to his chief foreman, Eddie Carr, a stocky young man in his 20s.
Eddie, where are we? We're wrapped up, Doc. Paint's still wet in a few places, but it should be dry by morning. We can't wait until morning. We're moving out now. We are?
Arby and Kelly exchanged glances. This was news to them, too.
I need you to drive one of these, Eddie. We've got to be at the airport at midnight. But I thought we were on field testing. No time for that. We're going right to the location. That'll be Malcom, probably. You're not going to field test?
Eddie said with a worried look.
I think you better shake them down, Doc. We made some pretty complex modifications here and there's no time. We have to go right away.
He turned to Thorne.
I'm very worried about him. Eddie, did the X-Days papers come in? Oh sure, we had them for the last 2 weeks. Well, get them. And call Jenkins. Tell him to meet us at the airport. And do the details for us. I want to be off the ground in 4 hours. Jeez, Doc, just do it.
You're going to Costa Rica?
That's right. We've got to get Levine, if it's not too late.
We're coming with you.
Right. We are. Absolutely not. It's out of the question.
But we earned it.
Dr. Levine talked to our parents.
We already have permission.
You have permission to go to the field test in the woods 100 miles from here. But we're not doing that. We're going someplace that might be very dangerous. And you're not coming with us. And that's final. But, kids, don't piss me off. I'm going to make a phone call. You get your stuff together. You're going home.
Then he turned and walked away.
Gee.
Arby stuck his tongue out at the departing Thorne and muttered,
What an asshole. Get with the program, Arby. You two guys are going home. Period.
Arby stuck his hands in his pockets.
They couldn't have figured it out without our help.
I know, Arb. But we can make him take us.
They turned to Malcom.
Dr. Malcom, can you please... Sorry, I can't. But the answer is no, kids. It's too dangerous.
Dejected, they drifted over to the vehicles, gleaming beneath the ceiling lights. The Explorer with the black photovoltaic panels on the roof and hood, the inside crammed with glowing electronic equipment. Just looking at the Explorer gave them a sense of adventure, an adventure they would not be part of. Arby peered into the larger trailer, cupping his eyes over the window.
Whoa, look at this!
I'm going in.
She was momentarily surprised at how solid and heavy it was. Then she climbed up the steps into the trailer. Inside, the trailer was fitted out with gray upholstery and much more electronic equipment. It was divided into sections for different laboratory functions. The main area was a biological lab with specimen trays, dissecting pans, and microscopes that connected to video monitors. The lab also included biochemistry equipment, spectrometers, and a series of automated sample analyzers. Next to it there was an extensive computer section, a bank of processors, and a communications section. All the lab equipment was miniaturized and built into small tables that slid into the walls and then bolted down.
This is cool.
Kelly didn't answer. She was looking closely at the lab. Dr. Levine had designed this trailer, apparently, with a very specific purpose. There was no provision for geology or botany or chemistry or lots of other things that a field team might be expected to study. It wasn't a general scientific lab at all. There really seemed to be just a biology unit and a large computer unit. Biology and computers, period. What had this trailer been built to study? Set in the wall was a small bookshelf, the books held in place with a Velcro strap. She scanned the titles. Modeling Adaptive Biological Systems, Vertebrate Behavioral Dynamics, Adaptation in Natural and Artificial Systems, Dinosaurs of North America, Pre-Adaptation and Evolution. It seemed like a strange set of books to take on a wilderness expedition. If there was a logic behind it, she didn't see it. She moved on. At intervals along the walls, she could see where the trailer had been strengthened. Dark carbon honeycomb strips ran up the walls. She had overheard Thorne saying it was the same material used in supersonic jet fighters, very light and very strong. And she noticed that all the windows had been replaced with that special glass with fine wire mesh inside it. Why was the trailer so strong? It made her a little uneasy when she thought about it. She remembered the telephone call with Dr. Levine earlier in the day. He had said he was surrounded. Surrounded by what? He had said, "I can smell them, especially at night." What was he referring to? Who was them? Still uneasy, Kelly moved toward the back of the trailer, where there was a homey little living area, complete with gingham curtains on the windows. Compact kitchen, a toilet, and 4 beds. Storage compartments above and below the beds. There was even a little walk-in shower. It was nice. From there she went through the accordion pleating that connected the 2 trailers. It was a little bit like the connection between 2 railway cars. A short transitional passage. She emerged inside the second trailer, which seemed to be mostly utility storage, extra tires, spare parts, more lab equipment, shelves, and cabinets. All the extra supplies that meant an expedition to some far-off place. There was even a motorcycle hanging off the back of the trailer. She tried some of the cabinets, but they were locked. But even here there were extra reinforcing strips as well. This section had also been built especially strong. Why? She wondered. Why so strong?
Look at this,
Arby said, standing before a wall unit. It was a complex of glowing LED displays and lots of buttons, and looked to Kelly like a complicated thermostat.
What does it do?
monitors the whole trailer. You can do anything from here. All the systems, all the equipment. And look, there's TV.
He pushed a button and a monitor glowed to life. It showed Eddie walking toward them across the floor.
And hey, what's this?
Arby said. At the bottom of the display was a button with a security cover. He flipped the cover open. The button was silver and said DEF.
Hey, I bet this is that bear defense he was talking about. You better stop that. You'll drain the batteries. Come on now. You heard what the doc said. Time for you kids to go home.
Kelly and Arby exchanged glances.
Okay, we're going.
Reluctantly, they left the trailer. They walked across the shed to Thorne's office to say goodbye.
I wish he had let us go.
Me too.
I don't want to stay home for break. They're just going to be working all the time.
He meant his parents.
I know.
Kelly didn't want to go home either. This idea of a field test during spring break was perfect for her because it got her out of the house and out of a bad situation. Her mother did data entry in an insurance company during the day, and at night she worked as a waitress at Denny's. So her mom was always busy at her jobs, and her latest boyfriend, Phil, tended to hang around the house a lot at night. It had been okay when Emily was there, too, but now Emily was studying nursing at the community college, so Kelly was alone in the house, and Phil was sort of creepy. But her mother liked Phil, so she never wanted to hear Kelly say anything bad about him. She just told Kelly to grow up. So now Kelly went to Thorne's office, hoping against hope that at the last minute he would relent. He was on the phone, his back to them. On the screen of his computer, they saw one of the satellite images they had taken from Levine's apartment. Thorne was zooming in on the image, successive magnifications. They knocked on the door, opened it a little.
Bye, Dr. Thorne.
See you, Dr. Thorne.
Thorne turned, holding the phone to his ear.
Bye, kids.
He gave a brief wave. Kelly hesitated.
Listen, could we just talk to you for a minute about...
No.
But...
No, Kelly. I got to place this call now. It's already 4 a.m. in Africa, and in a little while she'll go to sleep.
Who?
Sarah Harding.
Sarah Harding is coming too?
She said, lingering at the door.
I don't know. Have a good vacation, kids. See you in a week. Thanks for your help. Now get out of here.
He looked across the shed.
Eddie, the kids are leaving. Shut them the door and lock them out. Give me those papers and pack a bag. You're coming with me. Yes, operator. I'm still waiting.
And he turned away. Through the night vision goggles, the world appeared in shades of fluorescent green. Sarah Harding stared out at the African savanna. Directly ahead, above the high grass, she saw the rocky outcrop of a kopje. Bright green pinpoints glowed back from the boulders, probably rock hyraxes, she thought, or some other small rodent. Standing up in her jeep, wearing a sweatshirt against the cool night air, feeling the weight of the goggles, she turned her head slowly. She could hear the yelping in the night, and she was trying to locate the source. Even from her high vantage point, standing up in the vehicle, she knew the animals would be hidden from direct view. She turned slowly north, looking for movement in the grass. She saw none. She looked back quickly, the green world swirling momentarily. Now she faced south, and she saw them. The grass rippled in a complex pattern as the pack raced forward, yelping and barking, prepared to attack. She caught a glimpse of the female she called Face 1, or F1. F1 was distinguished by a white streak between her eyes. F1 loped along in the peculiar sideways gait of hyenas. Her teeth were bared. She glanced back at the rest of the pack, noting their position. Sarah Harding swung the glasses through the darkness, looking ahead of the pack. She saw the prey, a herd of African buffalo standing belly-deep in the grass, agitated. They were bellowing and stamping their feet. The hyenas yelped louder, a pattern of sound that would confuse the prey. They rushed through the herd, trying to break it up, trying to separate the calves from their mothers. African buffalo looked dull and stupid, but in fact they were among the most dangerous large African mammals. Heavy, powerful creatures with sharp horns and notoriously mean dispositions. The hyenas could not hope to bring down an adult unless it was injured or sick, but they would try to take a calf. Sitting behind the wheel of the jeep, McKenna, her assistant, said, "You want to move closer?"
No, this is fine.
In fact, it was more than fine. Their jeep was on a slight rise, and they had a better-than-average view. With any luck, she would record the entire attack pattern. She turned on the video camera, mounted on a tripod 5 feet above her head, and dictated rapidly into the tape recorder.
F1 south, F2 and F5 flanking, 20 yards. F3 center, F6 circling wide east, can't see F7. F8 circling north, F1 straight through, disrupting, herd moving, stamping. There's F7, straight through. F8 angling through from the north, coming out, circling again.
This was classic hyena behavior. The lead animals ran through the herd while others circled it, then came in from the sides. The buffalo can't keep track of their attackers. She listened to the herd bellowing even as the group panicked, broke its tight clustered formation. The big animals moved apart, turning, looking. Harding couldn't see the calves. They were below the grass, but she could hear their plaintive cries. Now the hyenas came back. The buffalo stamped their feet, lowered their big heads menacingly. The grass rippled as the hyenas circled, yelping and barking, the sounds more staccato. She caught a brief glimpse of female F8, her jaws already red, but Harding hadn't seen the actual attack. The buffalo herd moved a short distance to the east, where it regrouped. One female buffalo now stood apart from the herd. She bellowed continuously at the hyenas. They must have taken her calf. Harding felt frustrated. It had happened so swiftly, too swiftly, which could only mean that the hyenas had been lucky, or the calf was injured. Or perhaps very young, even newborn. A few of the buffalo were still calving. She would have to review the videotape to try and reconstruct what had happened. The perils of studying fast-moving nocturnal animals, she thought. But there was no question they had taken an animal. All the hyenas were clustered around a single area of grass. They yelped and jumped. She saw F3 and then F5, their muzzles bloody. Now the pups came up, squealing to get at the kill. The adults immediately made room for them, helped them to eat. Sometimes they pulled away flesh from the carcass and held it so the young ones could eat. Their behavior was familiar to Sarah Harding, who had become in recent years the foremost expert on hyenas in the world. When she first reported her findings, she was greeted with disbelief and even outrage from colleagues who disputed her results in very personal terms. She was attacked for being a woman, for being attractive, for having an overbearing feminist perspective. The university reminded her she was on tenure track. Colleagues shook their heads, but Harding had persisted, and slowly, over time, as more data accumulated, her view of hyenas had come to be accepted. Still, hyenas would never be appealing creatures, she thought, watching them feed. They were ungainly, heads too big and bodies sloping, coats ragged and mottled, gait awkward, vocalizations too reminiscent of an unpleasant laugh. In an increasingly urban world of concrete skyscrapers, wild animals were romanticized, classified as noble or ignoble, heroes or villains. And in this media-driven world, hyenas were simply not photogenic enough to be admirable. Long since cast as the laughing villains of the African plain, they were hardly thought worth a systematic study until Harding had begun her own research. What she had discovered cast hyenas in a very different light. Brave hunters and attentive parents, they lived in a remarkably complex social structure, and a matriarchy as well. As for their notorious yelping vocalizations, they actually represented an extremely sophisticated form of communication. She heard a roar, and through her night vision goggles saw the first of the lions approaching the kill. It was a large female, circling closer. The hyenas barked and snapped at the lioness, guiding their own pups off into the grass. Within a few moments, other lions appeared and settled down to feed on the hyena's kill. Now, lions, she thought, there was a truly nasty animal. Although called the king of beasts, lions in truth were actually violent.
Makina.
The phone rang again. Who could be calling her now? She frowned. Through the goggles, she saw the lionesses look up, heads turning in the night. Makena was fumbling beneath the dashboard, looking for the phone. It rang 3 more times before he found it. She heard him say, "Jambo, Mizzy." "Yes, Dr. Harding is here." He handed the phone up to her. "It's Dr. Thorne." Reluctantly, she removed her night goggles and took the phone. She knew Thorne well. He had designed most of the equipment in her Jeep.
Doc, this better be important.
It is. I'm calling about Richard.
What about him?
She caught his concern, but didn't understand why. Lately, Levine had been a pain in the neck, telephoning her almost daily from California, picking her brains about field work with animals. He had lots of questions about hides and blinds, data protocols, record-keeping. It went on and on.
Did he ever tell you what he intended to study?
No. Why?
Nothing at all?
No, he was very secretive, but I gather he located an animal population that he could use to make some point about biological systems. You know how obsessive he is. Why?
Well, he's missing, Sarah. Malcom and I think he's on some kind of trouble. We have located him on an island in Costa Rica, and we're going to get him now.
Now?
Tonight. We're flying to San Jose in a few hours. Ian's going with me. You want to come too?
Doc, even if I took a flight out of Serenera tomorrow morning to Nairobi, it'd take me almost a day to get there. And that's if I got lucky. I mean...
You decide. I'll give you the details, and you decide what you want to do.
He gave her the information, and she wrote it on the notepad strapped to her wrist. Then Thorne rang off. She stood staring out at the African night, feeling the cool breeze on her face. Off in the darkness she heard the growl of the lions at the kill. Her work was here. Her life was here. McKenna said, "Dr. Harding, what do we do?"
Go back. I have to pack.
You're leaving?
Yes, I'm leaving.
Does Eddie know what is this all about? Yes, Thorne said, but I'm not sure he believes it. And the kids don't know? No. Read it for me. It's from Arby, Malcom said. Says, have a good trip. If you want us, call. We'll be standing by if you need our help. And he gave us his phone number. You gotta love those kids. They never give up. Then he frowned as a thought occurred to him. What's the time on that message? 4 minutes ago, Malcom said. Came in via netcom. Okay, just checking. It's very unwise for us to be rushing off like this. It's not the right way to go about it. We should be alright, as long as we have the right island. We do. How do you know? The most important clue was something I didn't want the kids to know about. A few days ago, Levine saw a carcass of one of the animals. Oh? Yes, he had a chance to take a look at it before the officials burned it. And he discovered it was tagged. He cut the tag off and sent it to me. Tagged? You mean like, yes, like a biological specimen. The tag was old, and it showed pitting from sulfuric acid. Must be volcanic, Thorne said. Exactly. And you said it was an old tag? Several years, Malcom said. But the most interesting finding was the way the animal died. Levine concluded the animal had been injured while it was still alive. A deep slashing cut in the leg that went right down to the bone. You're saying the animal was injured by another dinosaur? Yes. Exactly. Who else besides us know about this island? I don't know, Malcom said. But somebody's trying to find out. My office was broken in today and photographed. Great, Thorne signed it. But you didn't know where the island was, did you? No, I haven't putting it together yet. Do you think anybody else has? No, Malcom said. We're on our own. Louis Dodson threw open the door marked animal quarters, and immediately all the dogs began barking. Dodson walked down the corridors between the rows of cages, staked 10 feet high on both sides. The building was large. The Biosyn Corporation of Cupertino, California required an extensive animal testing facility. Walking alongside him, Rossiter, the head of the company, gloomily brushed the laps of his Latino suit.
I hate this fucking place. Why did you want me to come here?
Because we need to talk about the future,
Stinks in here.
Rossiter said. He glanced at his watch.
Get on with it, Lou.
We can talk in here. It's simple, Dachshund said, starting to pace. But I think it's important. Louis Dachshund was 45 years old, bland face and balding. His features were youthful, and his manner was mild. But appearances were deceiving. The baby-faced Dachshund was one of the most ruthless and aggressive geneticists of his generations. Controversy had dogged his career. As a graduate student of Hoskins, he had been dismissed for planning human gene therapy without FDA permission. Later, after joining Biosyn, he had conducted a controversial rabies vaccine test in Chile. The unilateral farmers who were the subjects were never informed they were being tested. In any case, Dachshund explained that he was a scientist in a hurry and could not be held back by regulations drawn up for lesser souls. He calls himself results-oriented, which really meant he did whatever he considered necessary to achieve his goals. He was also a tireless self-promoter. Within the company, Dachshund presented himself as a researcher, even though he lacked the ability to do original research, and had never done any. His intellect was fundamentally derivative. He never considered anything until someone else had thought of it first. He was very good at developing research, which meant stealing someone else's work at the early stage. In this, he was without scruple and without peer. For many years, he had run the reverse engineering section at Biosyn, which in theory examined competitors' produce and determined how they were made. But in practice, reverse engineering involved a great deal of industrial espionage. Rossiter, of course, had no illusions about Dachshund. He disliked him and avoided him as much as possible. Dachshund was always taking chances, cutting corners. He made Rossiter uneasy. But Rossiter also knew that modern biotechnology was highly competitive. To stay competitive, every company needed a man like Dachshund, and Dachshund was very good at what he did. I'll come right to the point, Dachshund said, turning to Rossiter. If we act quickly, I believe we have an opportunity to acquire the InGen technology.
Not again.
I know, Jeff. I know how you feel. I admit there is some history here.
History? The only history is you failed. Time and again. We've tried this. Back door and front door. Hell, we even tried to buy the company when it was in Chapter 11 because you told us it would be available, but it turned out it wasn't. The Japanese wouldn't sell.
I understand, Jeff, but let's not forget...
What I can't forget is that we paid $750,000 to your friend Nedry and have nothing to show for it.
But Jeff...
Then we paid $500,000 to that Daiichi marriage broker. Nothing to show for that either. Our attempts to acquire InGen technology have been a complete fucking failure. That's what I can't forget.
But the point, Dachshund said, is that we keep trying for a good reason. This technology is valuable to the future of the company.
So you say.
The world is changing, Jeff. I'm talking about solving one of the major problems this company faces in the 21st century.
Which is?
Dachshund pointed out the window at the barking dogs. Animal testing. Let's face it, Jeff. Every year, we get more pressure of not using animals for testing and research. Every year, more demonstration, more break-ins, more bad press. First, it was just a simple-minded zealot and Hollywood celebrities. But now it's a bandwagon. Even university philosophers are beginning to argue that it's unethical for monkeys and dogs and even rats to be the subject of the individual of laboratory research. We even had some protests about our exploitation of squids, even though they were on dinner tables all over the world. I'm telling you, Jeff, there's no end to this trend. Eventually, somebody's going to say we can't even exploit bacteria to make genetic products.
Oh, come on.
Just wait. It'll happen. And it'll shut us down. Unless we have a genuinely created animal. Consider an animal that is extinct and is brought back to life. It's for all practical purpose not an animal at all. It can't have any rights. It's already extinct. So if it exists, it can only be something we have made. We made it. We patented it. We own it. And it's a perfect research testbed. And we believe that enzymes and hormone systems of dinosaurs are identical to mammalian systems. In the future, drugs can be tested on small dinosaurs as successfully as they are now tested on dogs and rats. with much less risk of legal challenge.
You think?
I know. They're basically big lizards, Jeff. And nobody loves a lizard. They're not like these cute doggies that lick your hand and break your heart. Lizards have no personalities. They're snakes with legs. Rossiter signed. Jeff, we're talking about a real freedom here. Because at the moment, everything we do with living animals is tied up of legal and moral knots. Big game hunters can't shoot a lion or an elephant. The same animals their fathers and grandfathers used to shoot, and then pose proudly for a photo. Now there are forms of license, expenses, and plenty of guilt. These days you don't dare shoot a tiger and admit afterwards. In the modern world, it's much more serious transgressions to shoot a tiger than to shoot your own parents. Tigers have advocates. But now imagine a specially stocked hunting preserve, maybe somewhere in Asia, where individuals of wealth and importance could hunt tyrannosaurs and triceratops in a natural setting. It would be an incredible desirable attraction. How many hunters have stuffed elk heads on their walls? The world's full of them. But how many can claim to have a snarling Tyrannosaurus head hanging above the wet bar?
You're not serious.
I'm trying to make a point here, Jeff. These animals are totally exploitable. We can do anything we want with them. Rossiter stood up from the table, put his hands in his pocket. He signed, then looked up at Dachshund.
The animals still exist?
Dachshund nodded slowly.
And you know where they are?
Dachshund nodded.
Okay. Do it.
He turned towards the door, then paused, looked back.
But Lou, let's be clear, this is it. This is absolutely the last time. Either you get the animals now or it's over. This is the last time. Got it?
Don't worry, Dachshund said. This time, I'll get them.